Welcome to Ausable Valley Disc Golf. I'm Alex here with John, and today we're going to give you our bottom 5 courses that we played this year. So, alright, on to number 5. I went with Lewiston. There were a lot of bad holes in there that didn't really make sense. They were, sharp 90-degree dog legs that are only 150 feet. A lot of holes that just didn't blend well together. A lot of really thick rough. It just wasn't really the type of course that we liked to play.
Yeah, my number 5 is Hilltop. It's a private course, and when we saw the ratings on it, it's rated pretty high, but we got there, and hole 1 was fine, but then it just kind of started going downhill from there. A lot of really tight throws from the tee pad. There were some where you couldn't even really throw as a left-hander like myself without worrying about breaking your arm, and so it wasn't even safe. And then the course just never felt like it flowed well, and for them reasons, I put that one number 5.
Yeah. Number 4 for me was Carly's Pond. The first 6 holes didn't really make much sense. The middle 6 holes were better, but they were all the same type of shot. And then the back 6 holes were just the same as the front. They didn't really make sense. That being said, I appreciate what the owner of the property was trying to do there, but the course design just wasn't there.
Right. Yeah, my number 4 is Huron's Nest. And mostly that's because, unfortunately, the college that it's on just doesn't seem to care about the course.
Right.
So it's just not maintained. High grass in the fairways. It just wasn't fun to play because of stuff like that, and you could just tell that. And just talking to some of the people that play the course regularly, they couldn't even convince me that it was a good course because they had some of the same arguments that just the college that it's on doesn't care. They'd rather have it just be for bike paths and stuff like that.
Right.
And unfortunately, I mean that it would, with better maintenance, it would probably be a decent course, but without any maintenance, and that seems to be one of our ongoing themes with what makes a good course is maintenance. No maintenance means it's not a good course.
Right. Yeah, my number 3 is going to be Green Lake Disc Golf Park in Interlaken. It just seemed like it was a lot of the same type of shot over and over and over again for 18 holes, and most of the time you're throwing 3 drives on a hole because it's 1,000 foot that just shapes the same way, and every shot's the same type of shot. There was no difference in between the types of holes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my number 3 was one of the small hole courses that we played, Rapid River. It's a 9-hole course. Unfortunately, it just feels like they just crammed 9 holes into a mess and just called it a course.
Right.
It was I don't know. It wasn't even enjoyable to play. Which for 9 holes, how can 9 holes get you upset that quick? And it was just not fun at all. I mean, if I were them, I would just tear it down and restart. And that's saying a lot, but it just wasn't fun.
Right. My number 2 was Toboggan in Wixom down near Detroit. For the amount of hype that the course gets, I feel like it didn't live up to it. There were 3, maybe 4 really great holes, but then the rest were kind of like, all right, take your biggest distance driver out and throw it. oh, here's a hill, throw up it. There wasn't. On top of that, there was a lot of thorns just everywhere. So you were always constantly trying to search for a disc for half an hour, and in the meantime, you're tearing up your legs, you're tearing up your arms. It just didn't make for an enjoyable experience. Plus, there weren't T signs anywhere. Not even temporary signs.
No. My number 2 is Buttles Park, which is in Lewiston. It's basically a 18-hole version of Rapid River. Aesthetically, it looks ugly. The course itself just was ugly. I mean, you're talking horseshoe-shaped holes that. Why would you have a hole as shaped like a horseshoe?
Right.
There's dog legs, and then there's obscene dog legs, and I mean, if you want to try angle shots and stuff like that and gimmicky shots, I mean, I said it in our review that I felt it felt like a putt-putt course compared to a regular course where too many gimmicks.
Right.
And no one wants to do that when you go out and play. I mean, it just wasn't fun. Every tree had 100 branches hanging off of it that were all dead. If you just went in there and just cleaned all that up, again, ongoing theme, maintenance, and it just seems like that needed to be taken care of, and just the course layout just was not. It didn't make sense.
Right. Well, before we get to our number ones, we have an honorable mention each. My honorable mention is going to be Rapid River. Like John said earlier, it was just so many holes were not thought out. You have enough property there to really think out a decent type of hole shot, and it was a 170-foot par 4 because you have to take 3 shots to get even close to the basket because you have to do this, and then you have to do this, and then that. And it just wasn't a fun, playable experience. And then you have your 100-foot jump shot that there's no reason for a 100-foot hole with nothing in the way.
Right.
And they don't have tee pads. It's all wood chips. And wood chips to me is worse than rubber.
Okay. Yeah, my honorable mention is Green Lake. Before playing it, Green Lake had gotten all the hype. It was a professional disc golf course made by a professional, and I imagine when he had his thoughts about it, and put it all in, it was supposed to be amazing. But just like everything else we've been talking about, is maintenance.
Yeah, there's no maintenance.
And there's no maintenance on the course. So I imagine him when he put the course together, thought that a township or park or somebody would be taking care of it. And as far as I know, it only gets taken care of like a day or two before a tournament. Because we went out there and there are ferns everywhere. In the middle of your disc golf course, right in the middle of the fairways. I know we threw a couple drives that we thought were just amazing, and it hit a fern and stopped. And it's like, really? You might what's the point? Get somebody out there, cut that stuff up. Obviously it's shin to knee high, so it's not fun walking through it. For throwing it right down the middle of the fairway and not being able to find your disc because it's in that stuff, that's not good either. It's just a bad look for a course that's supposed to be one of the best in the area. It's put in by a pro that goes around and builds these things, and it felt like he just did it, said it, forget it, and then everybody else forgot about it too.
Right.
And it just went by the wayside, and unfortunately, that's why I have to put it on my honorable mention.
Yeah. And as my worst course of the year, I'm putting down Hilltop. For me, it had as much hype as Flip City and Toboggan, and it was not even close to what anything would have been thought of. I mean, aside from hole 1 and maybe hole 12 and 13, I didn't like the course. I thought it didn't flow right. I thought it was too jumbled up. The tee pads were too close to trees. As John said, it was a hazard to left-handers. There were even a couple trees on right sides that were hazards to right-handers. There were less so, obviously, because it was more than likely designed by a right-handed player, so he thought of the swinging motion of a right-hander. But still, it was dangerous. It didn't flow right. Even the alternates on it were probably the highlight of the course.
Yeah.
It just didn't. It wasn't a great course.
Yeah. My number 1 is Toboggan, which, I mean, if you're a pro, I've seen many of these Dream 18s top courses, and Toboggan is right there as the number 1 course. But if you have to have 500 or 600 foot power to play this course.
Yeah.
Because if you can amp it down to 400 and throw it accurately, then you're okay with this course. But if your max is 300, 300 to 350, this course is not for you. It's a long day. It's a big hike. Like Alex said earlier when he talked about it, there are thorn bushes that are taller than I am, and I'm 6'5". So, and we ran into people on there that were just walking around the course because the day before they lost discs and they were hoping to find their discs. It's pretty bad when you check in to go play and the guy asks you how many people you're playing with because you need spotters. Otherwise you'll lose every disc in your bag. Does that sound like fun? It doesn't sound like fun, I mean, if you're a pro and you're able to throw over that stuff, then I guess that's not an issue. But for the average everyday player, I mean, it's not what I dreamed of. And when Alex and I were getting there and there no signs, you had no idea how far you were throwing. I know it's a temporary course, but you can put up temporary signs. Even if it's just one of them street signs that you just stick in the ground that you see when people are doing elections and stuff like that. You see them put them in when the tournaments are there, but someone, the course is making money or whatever. It can't cost more than a couple bucks for a sign to just stick in the ground.
Right.
Come on. I mean, if you want to be known as one of the top courses in the world, you've got to at least have signs so people know where you're going, how far it is. And another thing that made it bad for me is there were a couple iconic holes that I wanted to play, and those holes were gone. You get down there and you're dreaming of, man, I really want to throw this hole and make this and try this and do that and do this. And they just didn't exist anymore.
On top of that, there was at one point where we had to ask somebody that was building a new section of the course, hey, which way are we supposed to go? Because we have no idea.
Yeah. There's absolutely zero signage. So you had no idea where the next tee was. Especially, it was like hole 9 through 15 or 14, where that stretch is like all new holes. So, and they were not only new holes like a year ago, they're new holes like while we were playing it, they were building them. So we had no idea where the next tee pad was, where the next basket was. It was just holy. So, for those reasons alone, I for an amateur player, Toboggan is probably the worst course that we've played. And I can't imagine playing a worse course right now. I really, really can't. I mean, unless my game shapes up to where I'm doubling in distance, which, let's face it, that's not going to happen. Toboggan is just not the course for an amateur to play.
Well, that'll do it for our worst 5 courses of the year. We'd like to thank you for watching. We'd like to apologize if anybody did not like our opinions on this, but that is how we feel about these courses. If you have any other courses that you didn't like, please let us know. Other than that,
and if you got courses that you do like that we would like to go try, hey, we would love to go see them, and hopefully, you can get to watch our favorite 5 or our Dream 18, and maybe your course selection will make it for next year.
Right. Well, we'd like to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow.
Yep.